Industrial Revolution refers to the emergence of commercial steam engines and the establishment of factories that changed the economic conditions of Britain forever and eventually spread to other countries around the world. The Industrial Revolution took place in Britain in the second half of the 18th century. Agriculture and rural communities became industrialized and urbanized in Europe and America during this period. Before the Industrial Revolution, most production and construction was done in people's homes. They used simple tools or primitive devices for this. For example, most fabric producers did their work in small workshops or in the homes of spinners and weavers. In fact, this industry consisted of thousands of individual manufacturers. Also, each part of the country specialized in producing a special product. For example, coal mining was carried out in the northeastern regions of England and metal production was carried out in the Midlands region. New techniques and technologies in the agricultural industry paved the way for further extensive changes. Over time, factories and the use of special devices and mass production became popular. Also, the population of the country was increasing day by day, and the production of food products also increased during this century to meet the needs of the people. The textile and iron industries, along with the development of the steam engine, played an important role in the Industrial Revolution. These changes had also found their way in other areas such as transportation system, communication and banking system. The Industrial Revolution had many positive effects on the living standards of some people and increased the variety and amount of food production, but at the same time it had a negative effect on the lives of the working class and poor people. Unemployment and poverty rates rose in many rural areas. As a result, many people left the village and went to urban areas to find houses and jobs. All these conditions paved the way for the creation of a large-scale factory production system. Britain, the origin of the Industrial Revolution. You may be wondering what made Britain the origin of the Industrial Revolution. England had many coal and iron ore mines, which were essential for the industrialization process. In addition, Britain was politically stable at the time and could rely on its colonies as a source of raw materials as well as a market for its products. But why Britain? Britain was not the only country with coal reserves at that time. So why didn't the Industrial Revolution happen in China or any other country that had the same conditions as England or at least didn't have problems in this regard? There are several reasons for this, including the following. The economic organization of this country enjoyed a high level of freedom and the government did not interfere much in their affairs. The government supported commercial projects and was willing to devote a large navy to protecting merchant ships. The level of literacy among the people was higher. The nobles had a business attitude and absolute monarchy was limited in this country. The principle of rule of law was established in this country and assets were protected. British immigrants, Dutch, Jews and French Protestants, were considered valuable assets for this country. Britain was located in the Atlantic Ocean and its geographical position helped them in this way. British colonies in North America provided them with labor force, land and sales market. Cotton produced by North American slaves was cheap. The following are among the reasons why China could not become the origin of this flow. The Chinese government did not support maritime exploration and thought that their empire was large enough to meet all their needs. At that time, China's focus was on defending the country against the attacks of deserters in the north and west. Chinese Confucianism emphasized stability and balance and was not very supportive of change and new experiences. China's coal mines were located in the northern regions, while most of the country's economic activities were carried out in the southern regions. The rapid growth of the population in China made them think more about human work methods and did not have much motivation to turn to machines, inventions and industrialization. Before the Industrial Revolution, most people lived in rural areas and were engaged in agriculture. These people did not have much income and malnutrition and disease were common among them. Also, they produced most of their own food, clothes and accessories. The way of working in workshops or houses was in this way that people would get the raw materials and tools they needed from the merchants and deliver the final product back to the merchants. That is why the term home industry was popular at that time. The Industrial Revolution made a big change in the textile industry. New inventions made it possible to require less labor and at the same time increase production. James Hargreaves invented the spinning machine in 1764. This machine produced several spools of thread at the same time. Later, Samuel Crampton developed this machine and invented a spinning and threading machine around a spindle or bobbin. Edmund Cartwright's invention in 1780 also played a key role in the weaving industry. He was able to turn the weaving process into a mechanical process with the help of his spinning machine. The development of the iron industry also played an important role in the Industrial Revolution. Abraham Darby was able to discover an easier and cheaper way to produce iron and cast iron in the early 18th century. In this method, the melting furnace no longer needed coal as fuel. Henry Bessemer was able to discover the first method of cheap mass production of steel. During this period, iron and steel were used to make almost all things, from tools to buildings and ships. Steam engine and industrialization. Humans first used trees to build houses, ships, cook food, and heat themselves. They were looking for a more durable material that produces more energy with less volume than wood. During these searches, coal mines were discovered. They continued digging and decided to extract coal from the ground. After some time, the coal mines were filled with water. With the help of their horses, they took water out of the mines bucket by bucket. For this reason, the work process was progressing slowly, until James Watt, the Scottish toolmaker, designed a machine in 1776 in which burning coal produced steam, and as a result, pistons moved. It should be noted that the steam engine was invented before James Watt and was used in countries such as England, China, and Turkey, but it was not used commercially. After Watt, other people developed this engine until the efficiency and speed of steam engines in 1900 reached 10 times their efficiency compared to 100 years before. In the 19th century, when the British colonies in North America got the help of these steam engines to produce cotton, their production increased greatly. The advent of the steam engine meant that people had to leave their homes and work together in factories. Industrialization of transportation. Before the advent of the steam engine, raw materials and other products were transported by boat across the river or by horse-drawn carts. The American Robert Fulton changed this path. He succeeded, complete the construction of the first commercial steamship. Steamships became popular in the early 19th century for transporting goods. On the other hand, Richard Trevithick built the first locomotive equipped with a steam engine in the early 1800s. In 1830, England's Manchester and Liverpool Railway became the first railway to offer regular passenger services to the public. The railway in England developed in the same way. In 1820, John Macadam was able to use a new method for road construction. His method of making smooth, soft and more durable roads became known as the macadamization technique. This method created a huge revolution in the road construction industry, banking and communication in the Industrial Revolution. With inventions like the telegraph, communication became much easier. William Cooke and Charles Wheatstone could invent the first commercial electric telegraph in 1837. In addition, in 1866, a telegraph cable was passed under the Atlantic Ocean. The Industrial Revolution was also accompanied by the rise of banks and industrial investors. The stock exchange was established in London in 1790. Quality of life during the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution was accompanied by an increase in factory products. This revolution raised the living standards especially among the wealthy and middle class of the society, but the poor and the working class were still struggling with various problems. The wages of factory workers were low and their working conditions were dangerous. Children were considered part of the labor force and worked long hours. In fact, in 1860, about a fifth of the workforce in the British textile industry was under the age of 15. Many people came to work in industrial areas and there were not enough facilities to meet the needs of this population. This population faced the problem of lack of adequate housing, unsanitary living conditions and the spread of disease. At the same time, industrialization meant replacing some skilled people with machines. The condition of the working class in England improved over time in the late 19th century and the government introduced reforms in their working conditions. Industrialization, beyond British borders. England was trying to keep the secret of the construction of its devices a secret, but it was of no use. People went to England and after learning the necessary tips, they took these techniques home with them. Sometimes they smuggled these devices into neighboring countries by boat. As a result, industrialization reached other countries including Belgium, France, Germany, and Switzerland. By the middle of the 19th century, industrialization was fully established in the western parts of Europe and northeastern America. America became the largest economy in the world in the early 20th century. The first industrial revolution took place between 1760 and 1830 and was mostly dominated by Britain. Belgium was the first European country whose economic situation changed after England. Changes in this country were also focused on coal, iron and textiles. The industrialization of France took place during this period, but this country was involved in the French Revolution at that time, and as a result, its industrialization process was slower. The Second Industrial Revolution is somewhat contemporaneous with the First Industrial Revolution, but in general it can be said that it happened at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. In this period, they extracted resources that were not used until the previous period, such as new alloys, lighter metals, new sources of energy and production of synthetic products such as plastic. Automatic factories and shared ownership through the purchase of shares also became popular during this period. To people who are against industrial transformations and changes in technology, they say Luddites. This name refers to a group of workers in the English textile industry who attacked factories in the early 19th century and destroyed the machines as a sign of their protest. It is said that this movement was led by a person named Ned Ladd. This name was probably the fake name of the leader of this group. The Industrial Revolution has had many positive effects on human life, but industrialization requires various resources, and if there is no control over its process, it can endanger the earth, seas, underground water, and the life of plants and animals. If this question has arisen in your mind, what role did natural gas and oil play in the Industrial Revolution? We must say that these two things were discovered years ago. Of course, they were mostly used as fuel for lamps and other lighting sources, and it was only in the middle of the 20th century that oil became more important and surpassed coal.